Hi, today I'm going to introduce you to The Land of Stories, The Wishing Spell. This book was introduced to me by a fourth grade student who I tutor, and she ran up to me one day and said, "Oh, Miss Emily, you have to read this story. It is so great." So I read this over spring break and really wanted to share it with you. A little bit about the book. It was published in 2012 by Little Brown and Company. It's the first book in its series. Right now, there are two books out. The third book is coming out this summer, which I'm very excited about, and there is rumors that there will be a fourth book as well. This is a fantasy story. It's written in a modern day fairy tale. It has a Lexile level of 720, which I would consider a fourth grade level. However, it's appropriate for fourth or fifth grade. A great thing about this book is that its interest level is so wide. It can be read by an advanced third grader, and because of this fantasy fairy tale theme, it's also interesting to a struggling seventh or eighth grader, which is always a great thing to have in your back pocket. So it's been a rough year for the twins, Alex and Connor. After the passing of their father, their mother was forced to sell their father's bookstore. Their old house and work as many double shifts as she can at the hospital, leaving very little time to spend with the twins. They're not really in the birthday mood when their grandmother surprises them with a visit. On top of a wonderful birthday meal and a few gifts, their grandmother gives Alex and Connor her copy of The Land of Stories, a book which she and their father used to read stories from at night. The twins soon discover this is no ordinary book, but a link to another world, an amazing adventure, and a key to their father's previous life. A passage in this story that kind of sets the book up for this incredible adventure is found on page 79. Suddenly, her bedroom door burst open and Connor ran inside, sweating and out of breath. "Alex, don't do it!" He completely startled her. Alex lost her balance and fell headfirst into the book. "Alex!" Connor cried out to his sister. He jumped on the ground, trying to grab her foot before she disappeared entirely, but it was too late. Alex had fallen into the land of stories. This book is not only a great read, but it also has so many ways to teach in the classroom. Aside from the obvious reading comprehension and just reading in general, students learn about allusion in text, which is incorporating other text into this one. In this case, the author uses fairy tales for this. Students can go on a scavenger hunt, finding these different sections, which would be a great activity for students. The teacher can also incorporate writing by having students write a persuasive essay. In this story, when Alex and Connor are in the fairy land, they meet a fairy who is about to be banished from their fairy land, and they go with her to her trial, where Alex and Connor stand up for her and say, and talk to the jury and say, well, this isn't fair. Students could do their own version of this trial, or another one. Students can also write a comparative essay comparing different characters in the story, or comparing certain characters in this story to other characters in other fairy tales, such as the Evil Queen, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty. Red Riding Hood is a great one in this story to compare, because she's completely different than you would think. You can also teach social studies through this text. Students can learn about the United Nations through the Happily Ever After Assembly. The Happily Ever After Assembly is comprised of rulers from the different kingdoms in the happily ever after world, such as people from the Northern Kingdom or the Red Riding Hood Kingdom or the Charming Kingdom. So that each kingdom has a representative, and then they all work together to make sure that the happily ever after world is safe, such as they do in the United Nations. Students can also find and research real life fairy tales and share them with their classmates and their school. This, shows students that fairy tales aren't just make believe and that they can happen to real people. You can also teach your students about reading a map. In this text, there is a map of the fairy tale world included, and you can have your students follow Alex and Connor's journey throughout the story. Because of its fairy tale theme, this book is also wonderful for teaching character education. Students learn about the morals and values through the fairy tales, and students can also learn to help those in need through outside organizations. And here I just included a few links of some different websites that can help you do this. The Fairy Godmother Project is actually really interesting. This goes right along with the Fairy Godmother helping Cinderella out, where students and families help get prom dresses for people who could not otherwise have them. This could be a great one to do with high school students or middle school students who are really excited about their future prom or school dance. So here are just some helpful links for your classroom. Something I thought was really interesting that I didn't know before reading this is the author is actually one of the main characters in Glee. This can be used to hook your students. I don't personally watch Glee, but I thought it was still interesting that, this is a famous actor. So you can have your students research him. There are also some great teaching tips here with some activities and lessons. The Teachers Pay Teachers link is great. You do have to pay for it. It's $5, but it's well worth the $5. And often on Teachers Pay Teachers, you can find sales and deals, so it's not that bad. I've also included some links of fairy tales that you can use in your classroom to help compare and contrast the fairy tales that are used in the book. There's also fairy tales from different, I believe this first one has fairy tales from all over the world and not just the European ones, which would be great. Maybe students could write their own version of this story. I've included a few discussion questions. There are so many that this book allows itself that I just found, I thought of some ones that I thought were really great, but this is by no means an exhaustive list. So this story, this is a quote from the very end of the story that Alex says as she's leaving the fairy tale kingdom that I just really hit home for me. "I know this may not make sense, but thank you for always being there for me," Alex said. "You're the best friends I've ever had." This quote for me shows how Alex has really connected with stories and books, and I just think it's really important that we teach our students to have this connection with books because they really can be the best friends you ever have. I hope you all get a chance to read this story. It is great. I have a copy of it if anyone would like to borrow it. Have a good day.